My name's Wayne Connell, and I'm the founder and president of the Disabilities Association. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I want to share with you the 7 realities of the invisible becoming visible. And the first reality that we want to talk about is the reality of vast. So, what is vast? Johns Hopkins University in 2004 determined that by the year 2030 that 171 million people will have at least one chronic illness. And the number one chronic illness at this time right now is hypertension. And there's arthritis, and there's chronic mental disorders, cholesterol, diabetes, a whole host of different illnesses. In fact, they determined in their Partnership for Solutions research studies that as many as 3% of the population will have five or more chronic illnesses. And the illnesses are no respecter of age. Even the young will have as many as 5%. So 1 in 20 children will have multiple chronic illnesses. So the first reality is that it's V for vast. The second reality is that it's invisible. You can go into a crowded a mall or a crowded at your office or a place where there's a hall or school, wherever, and you can look around at the people and you can't tell what illness they're dealing with. You don't know who's got an illness. You don't know how many people have an illness. There are a lot of times their symptoms are invisible. In fact, you can even be in a wheelchair or use a cane or a crutch, and you would have symptoms that may limit you in those occasions. Even though you may be able to roll around in a wheelchair and have some accessibility. It's funny, in Colorado where I live, there's even a wheelchair basketball league. So those people are not necessarily disabled, but through the use of assistive device, they're able to play basketball. But what if you have basketball and you have PTSD or chronic pain? Then you're not able to work, or you may have additional limitations. So it's the invisibleness of the symptoms themselves that causes that. So the third reality, so the first was V for vast, and the second was I for invisible, and the third is S for society. And society, we want to talk about is how society reacts. So just imagine, it's a big shopping mall, and you got to go get a present, and it's getting close to Christmas time. And you waited till December 23rd, and at that time you decided, hey, I got to go get my present. So you get to the mall, and the mall parking lot is just jam packed, right? You can't find a parking spot anywhere, and you drive around and you see this parking spot and you go, it's for disabled people. And you watch a car pull in there and you notice they have a little plaque in there, put it up in their window, but they hop out of their car and run inside, and you think, hey, they're not disabled. They don't have a right to park there. That's what society looks at, when we look and say, hey, I need a space. How come you get a space? In fact, I don't even think you're disabled. So society has their views of that. But just think that let's just think of how we perceive people because of what we see, and how we see people, and we think, if they aren't using a crutch or a cane or a wheelchair, they must not be disabled or have a disability or dealing with an illness, because we can't see it, they must not have it. So the fourth reality I want to talk about, and this whole issue of the invisible becoming visible, is the individual. That's I. So we got VISI. I is for individual. So let's think about this. Let's go back to the same scenario. And the parking lot is full, and you've got a person, they're sitting at home, and they're thinking, I want to go to the mall. I need to go to the mall. But they're dealing with a disability, and they know how hard it's going to go to the mall, but they have a family member that they want to get a present for, and to them it's so worth getting this present, and it's such an honor. They're going to go ahead and they're going to figure out a way how to get to the mall. So they get in their car, and it's hard to drive. They take a friend with them, and they go down to the mall, and they drive around and around and around, and of course it's packed as well. But there's actually a disabled parking spot that they can park in. So they park in there, and they put up their little placard, and they get out of their car, and they go inside the mall, and they go and they find one of the little scooter carts that they can then shop with because I know it's going to be a long walk and a long day, and they drive the little scooter cart around. And people are always looking at them during this time and wondering, yeah, they're really disabled. They don't look disabled. Okay, first thing is, who wants to ride one of those little scooter carts around there? Go really slow anyways. So there's not like some big joy benefit in that sense. So it's not a special privilege. In fact, you normally have to go to the middle of the store to try to find one to get help. So they've had to deal with all that already, and people staring at them. And they go out and they get back in their car, and they get in their car, and they all of a sudden they see these red flashing lights in their back window, and they're like, what's going on? And there's a knock on their window, and there's an officer at the window, and the officer says, hey, you can't park there because that's for disabled people. And you say, well, I got a placard. Here's my placard right here. And he says, no, I saw you run into the store, and I saw you come back out of the store, and you're not disabled. But officer, I've got multiple sclerosis, or I've got, diabetes, or I have seizures, or whatever it is. And, the officer says, well, you got multiple whats? I don't care what multiple whats you have. You don't look disabled. You can't park there. This actually really happened to my wife, and it sent her into panic in a sense, because she's there with her niece, and this officer's, getting all over her case, and she's trying to explain to the officer that she's got these illnesses. And so she finally, stern, and says, you got to move your car. Okay. Cause you're kind of getting a little, everything's going crazy and haywire. And he finally, I don't know if he believes her or not, but he finally decides that he'll move his car. And then he points over there, and he says, see that car over there? Those people in that Cadillac, well, they're not disabled. I'm going to go over there and harass them. Um, we don't see what people go through. And a lot of times when we see somebody parking in disabled parking, we have no idea what they're going through. I have a friend whose son is autistic, and this kid's 6 foot something. He can run, he can play football. And you think, well, why would he need a parking spot up close? Why? There's nothing wrong with him. He doesn't have a walking problems. He doesn't have MS, any of those things. But the issue is, if he starts to have a breakdown in the middle of the mall, they need to know where their car is and be able to get to that car right away. And that's the benefit for them of having a disabled parking. So we don't want to look at people and judge based upon that. In fact, the person that you're graciously trying to defend, because you don't want them to be there, you don't want them to park in a spot, but the person you're graciously trying to defend because you want them to have a spot may be the person standing in front of you. So remember that if they have a license or a placard to park there, let's not assume that they can't. In fact, we should assume absolutely that they should be able to park there, and they have the right to park there. So let's make sure we don't judge ahead of time. The fifth reality, and it's V, which is vast, I, which is invisible, S, society, I, it's individual. The fifth reality is where we really take a change, and that's B for believe. This is the whole issue of believing people with what they're going through. So I got this great little cartoon, and this cartoon says, hey, you're in good health, but you may be about to develop a condition that's not covered by your health insurance. And it's the doctor talking to the patient sitting on the table. So what's the next line? Well, then you'll get, then I'll get coverage, is what the patient says. And the doctor says, you can't afford the coverage. Okay. Well, then I'll make my employer pay for it. Well, the doctor says then he'll drop your insurance altogether. Well, this is just not really working out here. I know I'll get the government to pay for it. Well, that will cause your taxes to go up and put your employer out of business. Okay. I know I'll wait for a cure because I know they'll find a cure. Oh, they found a cure, but you can't afford the prescription. Oh my goodness. Stop! You're making me crazy. That's the condition not covered. In fact, I'm just not going to think about it because that's how everybody else is handling it. But what we need to do is we need to believe people. We need to believe people when you've got a friend that you invite over to a party at your house, and they're able to make it one time. But then you ask them again and they can't make it the second time. And we have a tendency to say, well, you made it last time. Why can't you make it this time? That's not believing a person. what we want to do to that person is say, I'll tell you what, I'm going to invite you every single time. And if you can't make it, I'm going to get that. And if you make it, I'm going to honor you and thank you for being there because I know that you're honoring me by being there. And make that pact with them. You know, um, we want to make sure that that believe people. If you can do something, ask the person if they can do it. Don't assume that they can. Don't assume they can't do something. The best way to find out is to really ask the person directly to believe them. And sometimes it doesn't make any sense to us. Where a person can maybe go into a restaurant and they can't be around perfume, but they're able to eat at the restaurant. Well, how do they do that? Well, the server, they make sure the server doesn't have perfume on, and the restaurant has a policy that the servers aren't supposed to wear perfume, and they go at an odd time where there's minimal people, and sometimes they have to get up and move. But if you go to their house, you can't have any fragrances, nothing, zero, zip. It doesn't make any sense. But the issue is that we need to believe the people, what they're saying and telling us, because they know their bodies, they know what they can do. I had an example of a family who bought a home up in the mountains, and they wanted their loved ones to come up for Thanksgiving. Well, the person that was the husband of the spouse who was disabled worked in retail. And you know how retail is. I mean, if you're in retail management, I mean, you're there till late the night before Thanksgiving. You're up and early the day after Thanksgiving. So this is going to be a really short turnaround time. And it's a 2-hour drive through really windy hills up into mountain with elevation. Believing the person is when the person says, I can't ride in the car very far. Obviously, they can't come up to the mountains. And it's going to would be a real difficult time. So it's believing them and understanding them. And so probably wouldn't be the best to invite them to that. Now, obviously, it wouldn't hurt to invite them, but you got to believe them when they say no and understand and try to understand what they're going through. So it's VISIB. And the next reality of the invisible becoming visible is love. What is love about? What is love? How do we love somebody? It's the issue of believing them. We need to love people where they're at. We need to honor them when they're going through this disability. They're in a difficult place, and we need to ask them how we can help them, how you love them. For example, if you've got a friend who's disabled and they're in their home most of the time, ask if you can bring them lunch once a month. That small little act of compassion and of love is going to not only make their day, but make their month and allow them to get something to look forward to each month. It gives them a break from the energy they had to use that day to make the lunch. Maybe it's if you're going to the grocery store already, ask them, hey, I'm already going. Can I pick you something up? That's an amazing act of love. They don't want to feel like they're putting you out. You're having to make a special trip, but hey, you're going already anyways. Why not pick up a few things? Maybe when you make the next big thing of stew or a roast or some big meal, making a whole plate of pan of burritos or whatever, ask them if make some extra and ask them if you could bring that over to them. Those little acts, or rake their yard. I mean, we don't know if a neighbor in your neighborhood, their yard's all scraggly and everything. You think, boy, these people are lazy. I wish they cleaned up your yard. We don't know if they may be dealing with an illness, and it's really hard for them to do that. It doesn't hurt to show an act of love and compassion to your neighbor and say, hey, can I help do your yard for you? Can I mow your yard for you? And start to learn about people and get into that issue of you genuinely want to know about them and what they're going through. That's what love is about. Love is about the fact that they have value, the person with the illness. Sometimes they feel like they don't have value, They can't work anymore. They can't make widgets, and society would say, well, what good are they when they're not productive anymore? But the reality is that they are productive in the sense of each day they get out of bed. It's an amazing thing they do. It's a marathon they do, and spend 10 minutes with somebody who's been disabled for 30 years, and your life will be transformed because they work unbelievable. The pain they go through, I'd be passed out. I wouldn't be able to handle it. But each day they get up and they go on for the next day and they try to do things each day. It's not the running the marathon of, out there and doing 26 miles. Their marathon is life each day. So love them in that. And we all need to do that. We need to show compassion for people. We need to step out of ourselves and all the busyness that we got going on, and we need to reach out and say, I can make a difference in somebody's life with a very simple thing. A phone call. Hey, can I pray for you? Can I get you something? Can I bring you a movie and we watch a movie once a month? Something like that, which would be a great way of acting in compassion for them. The last and seventh reality is everyone. It's up to all of us. We can't do this on our own. It's not just the person with the illness. They're dealing with this on a regular basis. It's not just their caregiver, their friends or family. It's all of us. We need to reach out to each person. We need to understand that this is vast, and we need to understand that it's invisible. We understand that society has perceptions, and a lot of times our perceptions are not right. We need to know it's an individual to the person, and so we want to find out from them exactly how we can help. If you want to know about somebody's illness, ask them. They're experts on it, but genuinely be interested in it. Don't just ask them, how are you feeling every time you see them. What we want to do is teach people that language to say, ask them how they're doing instead of how they're feeling. If you ask them how they're feeling, they're probably going to either lie to you and tell them they're feeling good, or they're going to tell you the truth that they're sick and they've been in pain for 30 years and they feel the same they felt last week and the week before and the week before and the week before that. So ask them how they're doing. Maybe they're doing okay. They're not feeling good. Maybe they're not doing well and they're not feeling well. But genuinely ask them. So it really is up to all of us in society, ways that we can help each other, ways that we can relieve a caregiver. Give a caregiver a break. Give them a night out. Go over and maybe help with their son or daughter who's dealing with autism or Down syndrome or whatever, developmentally disabled, and say, I'll tell you what, I'll come over and I'll help your kid and I'll read him books and be with him for that. You guys, and buy them tickets to the movies or something. Give them a break. They need a break. They're on task 24/7. Give them a break. So once again, these seven realities are: it's vast, it's invisible, it's society, it's individual. We want to believe people, we want to love them, and it's up to everyone. So what's that spell? That actually spells the word visible. It's the invisible becoming visible. Those are the seven realities that we want to deal with, we want to talk about, and that we want people, most of all, we want to envision a world where people living with illness, pain, and disabilities will be invisible no more. You can find out more about what we do and what I do with invisible disabilities at invisible-disabilities.org. You can go to invisiblenomore.tv, which will show you all the stories of people and their journeys. You can visit us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. Just look up Invisible Disabilities and Google that, and you will find us on all these different sites. And we want to help people become invisible no more, and those seven realities of the invisible becoming visible. And thank you so much today. I hope you got a lot out of this. Don't hesitate to go to our website and ask more questions. Thank you very much.